Testing 1, 2. Go with it. Om Manam Vishvavigyanam Samsara Bandhanat Dharmartha Kamamokshanama Mantra Uchyate Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. The mantra is that which, the recitation of which, reveals that special knowledge that the world is not distinct from Brahman. Practice and recitation of the mantra makes this fact clearly discernible. Om, peace, peace, peace. And it reveals Brahman. May that Brahman protect us. May that Brahman sustain us. May that Brahman illumine our thinking consciousness. Free us from all doubts and impediments. And reveal to us the essence of the teachings. Om, peace, peace, peace. Peace be unto us. Peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome back to the Sunday class, which has been um, put off for the last 2 weekends because of our visit to the mainland US. Our Dharma visit there, the retreat we gave. And this class is focusing in on the mantras I was just chanting. We're calling it the Great Seed in this class, and showing how everything comes out of a word, which is a kind of a famous expression that we have in the West. Sometimes they put that in a negative way. Well, what's in a word? So you would not want to say that to anyone who is availed themselves of any of the Indian darshanas, because every one of them, Samkhya, Yoga, Vedanta, Tantra, you name them, everyone has a deep, deep love affair with the word and knows the meaning of the word and knows that everything proceeds from it. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God, is how we may have heard that in more of the Middle Eastern or Western hemispheres. And so that brings it closer to us so that we can pursue it in this day and age, because words are very important, but of course they're being used in a rather plotting and pedantic way, or in a very businesslike way only, as if they've rather been stripped of their inner meaning. Part of that, of course, is the Western education way of thinking of knowing a meaning, which is external, and knowing the spelling of a word and so forth. But in India, the spelling of a word is broken down into matras, or single letters, and those single letters are assigned to spiritual centers, as we know with the 7 chakras, for instance. Each one of those has a bijam. Bijam means seed. We'll be talking about that a lot today. And while we were there on the mainland, we had some teachings about Divine Mother Reality and yoga, and how important these words and these mantras are to that path. And now we have a chance to take at least an hour here, an hour and a half or so, to look into the deeper meaning of these seed words, which are said to be the origin of all things, particularly that one word, which I just chanted, I think, 2 or 3 times when I opened up the class, is Om, philosophically spelled A-U-M, if you want to spell it correctly. Of course, you see it spelled Om, O-M. It's even probably the A AU gives us a better idea of how to pronounce it. And but on top of the pronunciation of it, there's that deep meaning of it that we like to look into. So that's why the subtitle of this particular class, whether it's a one class or two class Sundays, we don't know yet, but it's called tucking nature back into the garden, into the bed of the mind. And it sort of infers that that's where everything came from. So in the Eastern tradition, then, you have the idea of mind-only schools. You have the idea of the world being projected by the mind. And you have the idea of three different levels of mind called cosmic, collective, and individual. And when we say cosmic in India, we mean, of course, the inner realms, inner cosmos. When that word is used externally, then it means outer space. But we're talking about inner space. And we have been talking lately about the Daharakasha, how there are many inner realms, Brahmandas they're called in India and in the Upanishads. Brahmanda suggests everything is Brahman, and that there are just many, many worlds inside of realms. And we know that also expands our knowledge of the Kundalini system, which was probably the Advaya Yoga system in the earliest times prior to the Upanishads being written down, as we looked at in the study of yoga on our retreat a couple of weeks ago in Washougal, Washington, as we attended the Ananta ashram there for a fine retreat. So everything is tucked back into the mind then, and that automatically releases God, however you would call God, Brahman, Allah, the Lord, Ishvara, releases that great being from all karma and responsibility for anything that happens here. Basically, it's the mind that sent everything forth, not Brahman. So in our tradition, God is not a creator, and because God is, and there was no word for it in English, so Vivekananda had to coin one, is a create. It doesn't engage in projection, sustenance, and withdrawal. That's usually known in India. Those functions are done by the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, or Rudra. But that leaves Brahman, the ultimate reality, out of that combination of dualities and contrasts and suffering and karmas, even such things as movements and actions. We have to go back and say Brahman is pure and perfect and formless and actionless and divine, to quote the Upanishads. So we're constantly reminding ourselves that this is a transcendental reality that's beyond name, form, time, space, and causality. Desha, Kala, Nama, Rupa, and Nimitta, it's called in Sanskrit. And these are ancient words themselves that go way back into the early times, even back to the Vedas and the early part of the Vedas before the Upanishads came spilling out with all their wonderful words to express divine reality. So this puts us automatically in touch with an eternal moment that transcends time, and puts us automatically in touch with an untouchable state, as Gaudapada called it, asparsha. That Brahman is untouchable. It can't be conditioned, it can't be sublated, it can't be modified, like everything else in the three worlds is subject to. So that means when you meditate on Brahman, then the formless, then you would meditate just on that alone. And thoughts on reality alone would be your great method that you would use. In the meantime, you can use these words, which are penultimate to that state, in mantras. And even the mantras tend to lend themselves towards the formless, because there's what's called mahavakyas. I think probably over the 3 or 4 decades, SRV has been sharing this wisdom, Dharma, Jnanam, Vijnanam with everyone. We've given at least 3 or 4 um, class series on the mantra and gone deep into how to recite it, what it means, the different ways of speaking it, how to break it down, how to think of it, the bijams that are attached with it, and the ishtams and the gods and deities that are also inherent in the words. All of that we've done so many times here in SRVdom and come up with some sort of idea, a much deeper idea of how important the mantra is than most people know in this day and age in many religions, including the Indian religions. The mantra is sort of bantered about easily and said like a parrot, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, rather than said from deep knowledge of what it means, word by word, letter by letter, particle by particle. There are great wisdom particles in words, which is what the Western education overlooks when it wants you just to have an external understanding of what the word means. If you say a word like if I'm looking at desk, let's see, and I say the word desk, and then I know science has told me that physically speaking, it's vibrating particles changing at a billionth of a second with all sorts of protons and neutrons and things in there as a constituent. But if you say the word desk and it has a sound, and that sound has a meaning, and that meaning is the very essence of deskness. See? And it's that way with every obstacle. I'm sorry, every object in the world, that it has that inner vibration going on. So really, it bespeaks of a tradition in India that called Shabda Brahman, or sometimes called Nada Brahman, that proceeds to unwrap itself and unfold its knowledge based on vibration. So if you go and take the vibration to the external most, then you're going to find particles of objects changing constantly. But if you take that vibration and you go inward with it by reciting the mantra and its bijams, its power words, then you're beginning to split through overlays of ignorance. That's how the mantra can purify the mind and get it thinking correctly again. So there are a couple more recent charts that I've put together that I can show you that help illustrate this and bring us to a greater understanding of how we ourselves can see the origin of everything back in our own mind, and then back into collective mind and back to the cosmic mind. Again, cosmic mind may mean here Lord Brahma. I take refuge in Brahman, the one who gave Lord Brahma all of the Upanishads and Vedas at the beginning of a cosmic cycle, the Upanishads say. So these are ancient words themselves, slokas, sutras, that contain this wisdom and trying to explain it as best as words can say externally. But if you think about it in terms of vibration, then it's happening right now with your sense of hearing. There's a sounding board, there's an oracle, there's a speaking, there's a atmosphere, air in this case, in which vibrations are being created, sort of like dropping a pebble in a pool, quiet pool, Vivekananda said, and these waves go out and they're hitting then the sound void of your ear, and that ear is connected to an intelligence, we hope, and that intelligence is picking up immediately what the speaker is saying and understanding it either deeper or not so deep, depending on the level of understanding that's been developed in the hearer. So that's all that has to do with the last 2 of the 5 elements, basically air and ether, are mediums for sound. And sound is the subtlest of all of the senses, and ether is the subtlest of all the elements. Of course, this is Yoga 101, that you would put together the 5 elements with the 5 senses and meditate upon their connection, and then take those 10 and bring them back into 10 more that are in your dream state, and take those 20 and bring them back forth beyond the mind into the intelligence or the intellect, the buddhi. And pretty soon you're finding out, like Lord Kapila described it, that there are 24 of these cosmic principles I like to say 25 if you add in Mahat, the cosmic mind. So all of this, of course, is known in the philosophy of Samkhya Yoga, it's called. But to bring it more understandable and comprehensible to people of modern day times, then we're trying to bring out these facets of words, and we necessarily have to use Sanskrit for it. It's Deva Bhashya is the name of Sanskrit. It was the language of the gods. The gods used, and the gods were the ones that were in on this cycles of creation, controlling various worlds, and thousands, millions, billions of people who people these worlds have these deities overseeing them. In the West, deity yoga has, of course, suffered a lot, but still, it's a very important type of yoga and has been since earliest times. So, in fact, Tibetan Buddhism has brought back some popularity to the realm of deity yoga. So with all of that said as a kind of introductory to this class, then we can look more specifically at what we mean by power words and how things come out of them. So I think the order I want to do that in is to show you some of these words, tell you their general meaning, show you the English and the Sanskrit, show you how it works inside of a person's consciousness, and then show you how everything traces back to the cosmic mind, and how the cosmic mind will think a word, and that word will become manifest and begin to create many, many worlds, many Brahmandas. In fact, I think that's the first quote on this chart here. If we want to call up the subtle meaning of root bijams and look at the bottom, it's explained there pretty well. The Upanishads, the revealed scriptures of India, state that Brahman is the soul of all beings. It is also the backdrop for all objects, the core of all things, the substratum of all principles, and the essence of all entities. The best indicator of this living presence is a word, and the best of all words are seeds called bijams, which contain within them infinite power, capable of projecting and sustaining billions of worlds within worlds, i.e. Brahmandas. So there's that word I mentioned earlier. So this is a good way of connecting not only oneself to the words via the scriptures, but connecting then the scriptures back to the source, and the source back to the highest reality called Brahman. So the best indication of Brahman are these words. And of course, the best of all words there is the top one in the left-hand corner. It's called, as Sri Ramakrishna said, Brahman's word, and that's Om, A-U-M. There's a Sanskrit for it, and transliteration. It basically has to do with Brahman, Ishvara, and Paramatman. Everything that's highest and best in the spiritual realm is figured in as the meaning, the subtle meaning of that word Om. Turiya too I put there because that's called your fourth state of awareness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. There's this unsublated, unstruck sound, or state that that beings can identify with. It's also called samadhi and so forth. Then you see there, Aim, the next word. That's Saraswati's word, the wisdom word. And she uses it even, they use it even in songs, for instance. I'm reminded of it as I think about it here. Vani Saraswati Vakdevi Bhagavati Parvati Mam Pahi Vinapani Hamsavahini Vedanta Rupini Pralayamam Vani Saraswati Vakdevi Bhagavati Parvati Mam Pahi. They sing about that with such tenderness and such depth to the goddess Saraswati, whose bijam is I'm. And so that's the mother of the word. Saraswati had in seminar we had recently, in one class we had recently, we showed the different aspects of Mother Saraswati. She has about 6 different main aspects that come to us as different goddesses, and they're all having to do with the wisdom word and how that gets planted in the mind of Lord Brahma, and how that gets thought, and how that thought turns into um, um, sound and meaning and object. Everything is connected that way, all the way down to the object. So when I was just talking about a desk a couple of minutes ago, I was going from the outside in to try and explain how there's a greater meaning than going from the outside to the further outside, which is what you'd be doing when you'd be looking into space, or you'd be looking into the material makeup of an object. So I was starting from the outside and trying to move in with it. But if you speak about it this way, then you're talking about the beginning, that is the wisdom, living intelligence that's in the Divine Mother of the universe, and how she will supplant it into the highest deity, and how the highest deity will just think about it and time will begin. That's how a yuga or Mahayuga begins, which is 4 yugas put together. And then that one vibration, just like dropping a pebble into a quiet pool, the vibrations will go out and hit the banks, and then they'll come back in. That's like evolution and involution. We don't know a lot about involution, unfortunately, in the West in these day and times. But yes, everything does return back to its source. And that's why you're not left out in the lurch when you take up Indian philosophy like Vedanta that Vivekananda brought us, is you always have a return to the source there as your great reward. It starts out, with the teachings of wisdom, and then it moves on to your livelihood, and it moves on to satisfying everything you want in the letter A of Om. That A means everything here that can be enjoyed by the individual, but it ends in moksha. That's called the 4 fruits of life in the Divine Mother path: dharma, kama, artha, and moksha. So that's almost like the 4 phases of the word, which is another teaching that we have charts on in Footfalls of the Rishis book, for instance. So anyway, each one of these bijams, you could learn to write them in Sanskrit there, see, and then just kind of put them down, and you could write out your mantra in Sanskrit, for instance, rather than just leave it in English. Om Aim is a powerful beginning to any mantra. Sometimes bijams get connected, these seeds, because in some certain beings, they need to break through certain obstacles, like break through ignorance to get to the wisdom. Maybe the ignorance has been there for lifetimes, so the guru would give them the bijam Aim in their mantra, connected to a deity, a powerful teacher, an avatar, and so forth, or Ishvara, a form of Ishvara. And then they would use this mantra, and sure enough, before too long, those conditionings that caused the ignorance from past lifetimes would begin to thin out, and finally the ice would break. And there's the ocean of wisdom underneath it. And so then you're very happy indeed at that time that Guru gave you the bijam Aim with your mantra. Aim Hring Saraswati Swaha is one of her mantras. Hrim Shrim Saraswati is another one of her mantras. And there's a Kavacha mantra for her. So there's lots of mantras for the goddess Saraswati that would use these bijams. Now, this wisdom is esoteric. This wisdom has been forgotten for the most part. This wisdom goes as far back in time as you can possibly remember, and further, to a timeless place. So it's not unusual that, or even unlikely that a culture or a world will forget about it in any given age, and then have to be brought back by certain rishis, or people who hold the truth dear and want to keep people of the Burloka, that's Earth, well informed about these. Shrem is the next, and These aren't necessarily in order of their import, but probably these three, Om, Aim, and Hrim, are the three most powerful of the bijams that stay closest to the source. So Shrim has transformation and purification. So if you had that given to you by a guru who then told you what it meant and you started using it, then the transformation that we're talking about there is not constant change of going from birth to life to death to rebirth back to life again. Actually, the transformation is that which will break the cycle of rebirth and ignorance, snap the chains of ignorance, and reveal you before your passing, and probably call it the final time, a conscious death that you have, like again the Tibetan Buddhists have been teaching. I think you have a conscious death, and that mantra will transform your thinking consciousness, turn it sharp, turn the intelligence sharp, and make the mind non-dual, and make the ego ripe, and make the thoughts elevated. That's the four things about the mind, right? Ego, mind itself, thought, and intelligence. That's called antahakarana in Sanskrit, the inner cause of everything. So there again, just with a word, the ancient rishis have told us everything here is from the mind. It's not from God. God doesn't act. God doesn't project. God doesn't create. We've got it all wrong. And so we turn back to the source and we see that it's a create, that it's just perfect as it is, without any change, without anything added to it, without anything to take away from it. It doesn't suffer what everything suffers in relativity. That's why the Mother in all her grace gave us the bijams so that we won't suffer in relativity. We can break through the problems of dualities, suffering, and anger, lust, greed, envy, pride, shame, delusion, pride of caste, pride of lineage, the six passions, the eight fetters, the five kleshas, the nine antarayas. However, the seers have put these great obstacles in front of us, we can break through them with a single word. Just use it with faith, take it deep, and repeat it. Not like a parrot. After you know what I'm teaching here and what my teacher taught me, how that there are mantras, and then there are mantras in mantras. And those can be put together with your heart's love. And then that's where the two wings of the bird get the bird off the ground. You know, you have wisdom and you have bhakti both. So you see, Shrim is just a transformation that purifies certain tendencies in the mind that then open up the mind to higher realization. The next one is Shrim, abundance and splendor. After that, Klim, fulfillment. After that, Krim, protection. Then Dum, power. Be careful, you use that one very much. Gam, that has to do with the guru. Also, I think, with Ganesha. Then Glaum, fortune. Home, focus. Hum, dissolution. Another one to be careful with. Shiva wields that very well. Kram, stasis. Time is Brahm. Hrum is freedom or moksha. Lam is earth. Vam, water. Ram, fire. Vam, air. And Ham, ether. Those five I put in because they're attached to each one of the five of the chakras, right? So you have five kinds of poisons, you have five kinds of nectars, you have five kinds of spiritual centers, and you have in each one of those spiritual centers a word you can seek, which will help you understand the meaning of air, earth, fire, water, and ether. And then you'll become a knower of the five elements. And that's part of knowing the word. You can connect the five elements then to tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, and smelling, right? Straight across the board. Earth, there's smell. Water, there's taste. Fire, there's sight. Air, there's touch. And hearing, there's ether, there's hearing. And all of a sudden now you're a knower of the 10 elements, the 10 tattvas. 10 of the 24 tattvas become your wisdom, which people are walking around all random about now. They don't connect them. They just study them as separate entities without deities. See, the advantage in India was that when you studied the five elements and you put them together with your senses were called what? Indriyas. Indra is the name of the god of the gods. So he's got all this force of gods under him in his realm, Indraloka. And those are all masters of the senses. That's why they call Krishna master of the senses, because he's even more masterful with them than Indra is. So deity yoga starts to creep back in here, and we can't talk about it a lot in this day and age in the West because we don't have a basis for it yet. And we probably shouldn't talk much about it in Vedanta because Vedanta sticks to higher principles than gods and goddesses. It goes for the throat. It goes for the highest non-dual truth and tries to get us to realize that, as I was just saying, Brahman is pure, perfect, inactive, and motionless, all-pervasive, unborn, undying, and so forth and so on. Those are all good words, aren't they? Unborn, undying, immortal, eternal. We have bijams in English that, if we use them right, would open up wider avenues than just say poetry or something. See, we can put them together in a fine fashion. But to know the real deep meaning of them is to become a knower of the word. And nobody's going to know the word until they know this word, Om. It's the first. It's Brahman's own word. It means transcendence, which means you are transcendent. You are formless. And that's not something that you're going to get nowadays in church, in family, with your ancestors. Uh, it just isn't given out. So you have to go to specialists that are in knowledge about the word and would be able to share with you. So these five, lam, vam, ram, yam, and hum, when you say them, you're pretty much talking about the five elements and how they connect with each of the five different centers or chakras, the five lower centers. And then you'll know where the elements have their subtlest um, dwelling place. The elements have come out of you. How? As words. And then they took on the forms later. So for thought is father to the deed, right? It's also birth mother to the object. So that's how that connection is made. And like I say, we're going at it backwards when you take an object and try and find what its real mean, its really sound, its real meaning, and its real essence is. But you can start from the highest thing, a bijam, and course down with it and see how everything gets connected as it begins to come into the individual mind. Starts out in the cosmic mind, enters the collective mind, then into the individual mind. And if the transmission stream is good and pure, the individual mind can use it to get free. Bondage was never the point of the relationship between spirit and matter. It was never the point. Freedom is always at the foundation. So say hrum, be free. Think about the word for freedom. There's moksha, mukti, kaivalya, nirvikalpa. Buddha used nirvana. I mean, Zen uses busho. There's so many powerful words. And if there's a word for it, that means it's a signifier for something that exists, right? If it didn't exist, you couldn't find a word for it. So the word and the thing that it signifies is very important. The signifier and the significance is very important because it's proof that everything what I'm saying is true, is based on truth. And it is a part of the higher wisdom, like say of the goddess. Universality is there, so, and then we have fat is removal. We say that, remove impurities from food and so forth. At the puja, you say fat. You offer things into fire. You want to remove impurities and purify them. There's svaha, another offering. bijam, and kshom, which has to do with equanimity and peace. It says there at the end, the word bijam means the eternal seed, and it's also termed as sanatana. So the Sanatana Dharma is what Indian religion is called overall. The ancient and most ancient term for Indian philosophy and religion is Sanatana Dharma, the eternal path. So that's because they found their connection with words and trace the words back to the source word Om. And then everything in the beginning, it was with the word, and then it was God. Even thousands of years later, after the Vedas, Christ was using that reasoning with people in the Middle East. It's a whirlwind pass in an hour and a half here through these most powerful bijams, but now we have some sort of a background upon which to understand mantras that we're using to get rid of impediments in our thinking process, in our vital force, and in our bodies even. May our bodies expand great health. May our life force flow unimpeded. May our minds expand in their capacity to know Brahman. That's the main thing, is that our minds expand in the capacity to know Brahman. Because if we start with the mind and understand these teachings, life force, prana, and body will be healthy. They'll be naturally balanced. You don't have to do breathing or exercise or any of that. You just make your mind fix it on Brahman. Samadhana. You have thoughts of Brahman alone. You spend time with Brahman each day in formlessness. Concentrate here as soon as your teacher tells you to, and then open that third eye, the Agya chakra, the white dove ascending, the Dharma eye, Buddha called it, the Jnana chakshu, Krishna called it, the eye of wisdom. The front door to consciousness is called by the Essenes. So there's so many names for that center there, and that's that center where Om will begin to open as a portal into the highest reality of Brahman. Usually, if you're meditating with a mantra, you'll begin to hear Om when you start to purify the third center, the Manipura center. And that means getting beyond your desire for heavenly existence and getting into the love for God. Far beyond heaven is, I don't want heaven, I want God himself. And that the Hindus realized very early on. So they opened up this Anahata center. This had been closed down for a long time in a certain cycle. And this great rishi called Mahashamashya penetrated through it and opened this Anahata chakra and saw this wonderful world of love of God open up to him. And so there are beings that use their consciousness, as probes inside to go within. Don't go just without. From the infinite, the finite has come. So use the finite, transcend the finite, and then draw it back into its source in meditation and in philosophy and even with words, so that you have a mother word there to go to in your mantra. It's called a bijam, a powerful seed. And so let's conclude this chart with this quote. There is but one word, the great seed mantra. It is not an ordinary acquisition. Whosoever gets this wonderful bijam from a true spiritual guide and meditates upon it incessantly will attain everything desired. For it originates from Amba Devi, the mother of the gods, before the time of creation. So this is one thing about, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, that there was beyond the beginning. Then was this formless Brahman. So that's what the Devi Bhagavatam says here. Amba Devi, the mother of words, existed before creation began. This is that pure conscious awareness, that Mahashakti, Mahamaya, she's called. Mother of the gods, says here, and called in the mother scriptures. So she's got all these words within her, and you have them too in you, inside of your mind. Let's go from how uh, the study of words begins to educate us as to how we may use a lot of words, but we're not using words like Om, Hrim, Shrim, Klim, Krim, Aim, Hum, Fat, Swaha very often. Maybe you go to the priest class of India, you'll hear more of those words spoken in the pujas. Or if you go to anyone doing a puja, you might hear these. Or if you go to a guru, he might give you a few of them and tell you they're very special words with great power in them. That's how I started off chanting from the Tantra Sadbhava, right? Manam Vishvagyanam Samsara Bandhanat. What's Samsara Bandhanat? Samsara binds people into these rounds of birth and death and ignorance. Binds what? The mind, manam. But dharmata, if you get the dharma, kama mokshanamaha, you get freedom from desire, kama. And then by what? By using mantran mantra uchate, right? So the tantras talk about how using this mantra can free you from samsara, bondage of samsara, and can open up these inner highway, the Shishumna, and all the hundreds and thousands of subtle network of nerves that lead to it, which your consciousness goes through every time you go to sleep at night, but you're not aware of it. It'd be like if you were hypnotized and you got up one morning here and you got in the car and you drove a bunch of highways over there to the other side of the island. Then you got back in, you drove back and parked your car and went to bed and went to sleep, but then you forgot that you did that trip. See, that's how people are going into these nadis all the time in sleep and not keeping their awareness with them when they do. They just give it to the ignorance of waking. It's only in deep sleep they get a different kind of ignorance, as we were talking about yesterday at satsang, right? That ignorance in deep sleep is well-informed ignorance, if you could say so. You're in bliss then, and you come back feeling the effects of it. So that's the one difference, noticeable difference between the kind of ignorance that you have in deep sleep and the high kind of ignorance that's pulling you back and forth between waking and dreaming states, unawares of what's happening to yourself. So all of these words, these power words, then are in the able hands of great souls like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, passed on to the lineage of gurus, and they're there at the inception of every projection of a cosmic age, and so they're in you too. See, so here's a way we can say that as we bounce to this other chart that helps explain more of the first one. Then I'll show you how it works in our everyday life if we have the time. So here's called the superior spiritual hybrid. When you put mantra together with the teachings of Jnana Yoga, which is what we're doing in this class. Subtitle there, Slow Release Medicine for the Psychic Bloodstream. You have a psychic bloodstream too. It's called prana. Actually, another form of prana is called psychic prana because you could make a case for prana that it's a part of the body. It's not really. It's a part of your mind, the prana, but it's manifesting itself in 5 gross forms in the body. That's the 5 pranas that you learn about in early yoga. Basically, you want to get that prana of your lungs, right? Puraka, Rechaka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka, the triple breath together and balanced. And so then you get control of your life force. And if you can do that, it gets control of your thought process. That's how they go from the outside in anyway. Again, if you come here with your mind already controlled, then you don't need to do that. So you're always in control of your life force because you're aware of yourself dying and you're aware of yourself being born again. You're aware of yourself when you're living. The self is all there is, so there's nothing else to be aware of but the self. So there are many souls like that, even here in this world, like an authentic guru that you would meet, like Swami Sheshanandaji Maharaj. So medicine for the psychic bloodstream. So you might say that these injections that we get um, have a serum in them, right? And those serums are the power of these seed words. Uh, they're going to make a revolution in your consciousness, but you're going to have to add a few things in yourself, some faith and some longevity, basically. If you have faith in what the words that the guru is speaking and you keep at it for a long time, then you'll begin to have your own direct experience of these truths that are being uttered prior to the fact of having the experience of them in life. So I'll show you how it looks like in life, these in the cosmic level. But right now you can see here, and I don't want to go through the whole thing, but basically you can see how there are 5 kinds of space that we're in. There's an akasha of inner space called the mind. Akasha is the word here. There's an akasha of living intelligence, Gyanakasha. Down here you can see the akasha of physical space and vital space. That's that matter and energy, right, basically. And then there's a space of spirit, Chitakasha. These 5 spaces wrap us round and round, and they're the 5 kinds of space that we have, that we are possessed of ourselves. So if we limit that down just to one space, like I'm just a physical person and, the physical world is all that exists, then we shut out 4 other avenues by which Brahman is trying to express itself through us in the world. And so those are called granthis. You have the nadis, open passageways, and then they get plugged up just like like a traffic jam on the highway, and or like lining up at the airports now and trying to get through metal detectors. Basically, there's just these big granthis there that just stop moving and nobody can penetrate them. It slows everything up mightily. So that's what happens to our nadis. 4 kinds of space get kind of blocked by these granthis, these knots, at the individual, at the collective level. So the bijam, if you get it, will help remove that block and open those nadi, any given nadi up. So all of a sudden, you might have a very powerful dream. That's an opening in a nadi, but it then closes back up again, right? Because you don't have someone around to interpret the dream and tell you that it's not a figment of your imagination or some such nonsense. So when these experiences of spirituality happen to you, then that's the opening of nadis. And it means that the mantra that you've been using for the last 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years is having its effect on you. And those words are penetrating through these veils of ignorance. And your life improves on all 5 levels, right? Not just on the physical level, because that comes and goes. Nobody can, not even a master of A can expect that this world's going to give them what they want. They have to master U and M. You have to master the whole word. And that gives you the only real satisfying thing is the Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Brahman. I am what I've been seeking all along. That's the supreme satisfaction of samadhi. So the quote here says, when the mantra is received from an exemplary guru, you can't get it from just anyone. You can't get it from a guru that's charging a lot of money for it and not telling you the meaning and things like that. When it's received from an exemplary guru, both karmas and future lifetimes swiftly become a thing of the past. So those are the first 2 things that will disappear on the psychological level. You all of a sudden will feel free of karma. You don't have to pay the piper anymore. And you'll remember your past lifetimes and you'll see that they were all illusory. It's not like people nowadays saying, oh, I remembered my lifetimes, but your lifetime was never real in the first place. So remembering it isn't going to be any great realization. It's just a memory you had in a mind that wasn't enlightened. So you have to get that mind enlightened. And then the past birth might mean something like it did to Krishna on the battlefield when he said to Arjuna, we've had many lifetimes, you and I. I remember all mine. You haven't begun to remember yours yet. He still thinks he's just a one lifetime person here in this akasha of space, physical space. Most beings are like that. They haven't opened the nadis. You talk about nadis and Shakti and Kundalini and chakras and all that. Most people think you're crazy nowadays because it's might as well be Greek to them. But it's not Greek, it's Sanskrit. And Sanskrit goes much, much deeper, as you're seeing here. They've got a word for everything, and they say that since this word exists, that thing exists. So if I want peace and I can say Kshom or Shanti, then that peace should be mine. If I say that enough times, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, right? 3 times would be a good start. And pretty soon I'll start feeling the very peace that that word represents, because that word exudes that. That is the essence of that word, peace. It's not just something that's added on left later or from the outside. It's not an ornament on a tree. It's the green of a tree. It's the very essence of peace. You say it, you don't have doubt in it. You've got it verified by the scriptures. You've got it transmitted to you by the guru. Now you have peace. And pretty soon you have what Jesus called the peace that passeth all understanding. That takes you beyond. A word can take you beyond the realm of words. Sri Ramakrishna said, when I first heard the word and saw it in my meditation, I saw that all worlds were entering into it and then coming out of it. And amazing, I was the witness of this. And no time was passing as that happened. So time kicks in later. It's like one of the 12 cosmic tattvas of Shaivism is kalas, and kala and kalas, time. That comes later in the picture that time starts to roll. But there are many tattvas before time starts to roll, like the Purusha, like consciousness, like Shakti, and that inform you of the truth before you even get into the wheel of time. So you see that then what it really means is that time is, as they say, rather an illusion. That people are just like space. They're limiting it just to a chronological entity, or just to an increment, or several increments. And then they bind themselves into time, just like they bind themselves into one space. So this has to be thought about, has to be thought out, and then it has to be thought through. And you have to come up with these conclusions about it, and then apply those conclusions to your everyday life, but not has to become living, not in books and temples and scriptures and what is this, an iPod? Not just that. It has to be actually understood. So you live it and breathe it everywhere and exude it, just like the word kshom exudes peace, peace, peace. Further, as mantra practice matures over time, it inevitably befriends that best of destroyers of ignorance called Jnanam. That's wisdom. Thus, the secret of an exemplary guru is that he or she delivers the mantra to the ready aspirant in a timely fashion, and it is permeated with wisdom that is set to infuse the human mind like a slow-release medicine in the bloodstream. So, I give you this mantra, don't just come back 2 days later and say it didn't work. Do your practice faithfully for weeks, for months, for years. If nothing happens, then come back and tell me about it. This is what Holy Mother told us. Basically, have to put that perseverance and longevity with the practice if you want the effect. It just means that there's been so many dark ages that have passed and so many lifetimes where this hasn't been taught, Brahman hasn't been realized, souls haven't gotten enlightened, societies have become warlike, and so forth and so on, that there's a lot to pierce through, and the mantra, the bijam, will just take a little bit longer. That's why Vivekananda said, I can liken truth to the most corrosive substance in the three worlds. It will burn through everything. Harder things, it will take more time. Softer things, burn through them right away. So let's start burning through these softer things in our minds that don't have any life there. They don't have any need for, and that there's no need to hold on to them anymore. Like, for instance, just one kind of space. Let's start thinking, or one kind of body. Let's start thinking, I have a dream body tonight. I have a deep sleep body that's very peaceful and very close to Brahman. That's me I'm talking about, right? That's the three levels of me: waking, dreaming, deep sleep. It's not some philosophy out there that somebody talked about. We're talking about looking at the the complex living being and assigning them to three bodies, five kinds of space, five kinds of prana, seven chakras, kings of heaven within and beyond. We are consciousness that's flowing through all of that as a play. When the play's over, we'll stop flowing and we'll just become one silent, indivisible, pure conscious mass, indeterminable mass of pure conscious awareness, right? As Shankara says in the scripture. And then we won't have to know, we will be. We will be. In the meantime, this play of becoming needs to be conducted in the correct way. So, like I said, these are all the mantras all the bijams I've already told you about. I'm just putting it in a picture so you can go from this chart of study. Basically, you can go from thinking about it like that. Take a picture of it if you want on your screen. It's not in a book yet. It will be soon. Actually, it is in a book, but the book's not published yet. So, think about them. This is your study. This is you go to the library and you study. Go to the University of Universality and you study this, right? And now put them into your mind, because that's where we really want to meditate on them. So you see them there. I'm, Klim, Shrim, Gam, Glam, Krim, Dum, Hum, Brim, Shrim, Om, Vyam. I better not say them so much. They really should be used one or two at a time with a deity, with your chosen ideal. So Bhiksha Akshara. Akshara means eternal. It means deathless. It means beyond destruction. These words you cannot destroy. They exist back in the cosmic mind of God for eternity. They're indestructible, Akshara. There's a whole chapter in the Gita about that. There you can see at the bottom the five elements in the chakras. Again, shown Lam, Yam, Ram, Yam, and Hum. And since we're talking about the mantra, and this kind of teaching is coming out from SRV because Sri Sharda Devi is my guru's guru. So she was Japaharini. She was perfect in the art of mantra and passed it along to all of the people that she initiated, and in this day and age. So here's a few quotes from her about it. As you turn the direction of the worldly mind through spiritual practices, that mind itself will be able to grasp the chosen deity. So she's talking about practicing your mantra. If your mantra has the name of, has her own name in it, Om Shri Sharda, or if it has Ramakrishna's name in it, Jai Shri Ramakrishna, or if you're in India and you have Om Namah Shivaya, some of these, or, even Dalai Lama has let us know what his mantra is, Om Mani Padme Hum. So if you know some of these mantras are there, then you know that people are using them all the time, every day. You see the lips moving sometimes, even though they're not necessarily, they're muttering the names. So it's the bijams with the deity, bijams with the deity. You put that together for the best of God with form. And she said also about Sri Ramakrishna, the master himself taught me all these mantras. Their inner meeting, along with their respective deities, he gave me the mantras possessing great power. They are all imbued with the power of renunciation. So they'll strip away all your attachments and all your shortcomings and all your faults and all your errors and all your karmas that come from all of those things. And all you need to do is just recite them with faith and perseverance and do some dovetailing, you know, with this. Study them in the wisdom mode. Uh, Put together mantra yoga with jnana yoga. She says also, power passes through the mantra. The guru's goes to the disciple, and the disciples goes to the guru. So if you're in initiation with a guru disciple, guru shishya it's called, then there's exchange of this power, and it's good for both parties, um, for the most part. So basically, all of the karmas are being destroyed by the sharing of this powerful wisdom about mantra yoga. She also says, inquire from the guru about the meaning of the mantra, then repeat it with devotion, and the mind will become steady. So if you see your mind has become steady, impervious to distractions, and always on keel, you never have to discipline it anymore, then you know that that mind is your friend, as she said. You can have a good teacher, you can have a mantra, you can have a human body, but if you don't, and a desire to be free, but if you don't have the cooperation of your own mind, then all of those might come to nothing in this lifetime. You got to get your mind on your side, because the best guru, the avatar, can't take away your delusion if you don't want to give it up. Final quote here, because I like say we've gone through most of the meanings of that. This is just putting what we said in another perspective. So we take it from the worksheet to the mind. So we make the connection, right? These are in you. You recognize them. If even if you didn't make a lot of spiritual progress in mantra yoga in this lifetime, if you had another birth and you heard the word Om, you would perk up. What is that? You know, because it's in you, and it got fired in you earlier. You used it for a while, maybe didn't come to a full realization of just what you had there that was given to you by a great soul. Um, but better to do it in this lifetime, as all the seers say. Get your realization now, while this kind of wisdom is for the taking. Final quote there is, among spiritual ideals, the best is an exemplar. Amidst purificatory practices, the best is that of the mantra. Similar to Vedanta and the classic eight-limb yoga in philosophical systems, mantra yoga and jnana yoga are one of the best spiritual hybrids in the realm of spiritual self-effort. The unique way in which they grow and work together has been scrutinized by authentic spiritual preceptors, then utilized for both lifting transmigrating souls up and out of suffering and Maya and returning them to their original pristine condition of union with Brahman. Yoga. That's yoga as its true meaning, not yoga as practice there, yoga as reality. So back to the first sentence, along spiritual ideals, among them the best is an exemplar. So that's why we look at our great souls in India as exemplars, not as saviors. If you have to be saved, then it's too bad for you and for the poor savior himself, as we've seen. But if you can realize what this great soul is trying to communicate to you by his example, by her example, and then you raise yourself by your own power, then that's called yoga as practice. And it will lead to yoga as presence. I think I'm pacing myself very well, because now we want to go to the same thing we're talking about, but how it happens to us in terms of seeds that are watered. You might say these are seeds that are not watered yet, and they're not watered yet by Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. before a cosmic cycle begins, because India always thinks in terms of cosmic cycles that go on forever. There is no end or beginning to anything. There's just consciousness and it exists at all time. But you have to realize it to be in samadhi of it. What most people fall from realizing it, then they fall into the illusion of time, the illusion of space, the illusion of name and form, the illusion of individual egos. Then further, they fall into the illusion of suffering, the illusion of darkness, the illusion of hell, and so forth. So consciousness can just bring itself back up with these bijams, up and out of those patalas, they're called, and to a higher level of concentration. The sixth limb of yoga. If you get concentration, then pretty much the battle's over. Just don't ever lose it again. So bijams, letters, words, all instanced in these two charts. But how does it happen then that as a cosmic cycle kicks in and these words are used by great deities like Lord Brahma, who is an immortal bridge to eternity, the Upanishads say, how do we find ourselves back to that after we've distanced ourselves from it in the embodied condition, after we've left the Sahasrara highest chakra and come down to these three worlds of transmigration called Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipura, these three, with their bijams of Lam, Bam, and Ram. How we need to know that they were created out of words too. The five elements have words, in English, they also have ancient words in Sanskrit. And so if we keep in mind all of these words and their meaning, and we recite them inside of mantras, then we empower them. That's how you animate a mantra. Some people repeat it like a parrot, and that's no good. Holy Mother said, well, Om is really its own mantra. If you say it, even without consciousness, it'll do you a little good. But she said the real point of it is to get the full effect of the word. And so you meditate upon A, U, and M. You connect it with waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. You connect it with Mother, Father, and Guru. You connect it with all these triputis that all the worlds, and you become a full knower of the full word and what it means. You connect it with Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, for instance, and all of a sudden you have the highest deity yoga right there at your beck and call. You have to know about those associations and hear about them and then explore them. That's the Jnana Yoga here on this chart. So now we shall look then at this miscible nature of cosmic principles. They're called tattvas, right? So Sri Ramakrishna said this, everything is soluble into Brahman. I really like that saying all the time. I read it in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, that everything can just dissolve back into Brahman, like earth into water and water into fire and fire into air, air into ether. I mean, it's very, very philosophically accurate too, is that when you meditate, you want to do that with the five elements. All of this in nature, I think I'll just dunk it in water. I'll just dissolve it. Now those two, what's left in water is a bunch of water with earth melted in it. Now I'll just burn it in fire. Now I'll take all of that and I'll just spread it through air, vast regions of atmosphere. And then all of a sudden I'll take that back into space itself, the very essence of dimension. And now I've taken the five elements and taken them back as in the order that they came out as tattvas. This is involution. And you don't have to wait to death to do it. In fact, it'd be better if you did it in your involution meditation that I taught you decades ago, a lot of you. Basically, take this all back in the dissolution of the mind meditation, it's called. This is not Kapula's system. It's very much like Kapula's system. Remember, Sri Krishna said in the Gita at one point, of all words, I am Om. And then later on, he said, of all sages, I am Kapila. So he's following the ancient Kapila system of the 24 cosmic principles there in the Dwapara Yuga, where he manifested as Sri Krishna, which is the yuga before this one, long age. So basically, then he's taken that now, and he's talking in that Dwapara Yoga, he's talking to his disciple Uddhava. There's a scripture called Uddhava Gita you can read that's a very good companion with the Bhagavad Gita that every follower of Sri Krishna and every appreciator of that wisdom will read. So you can see him saying here, for instance, perceiving the nature of gradated worlds in space and time, one transcends the primal error of taking multiplicity to be actual. That's called distraction. A real heavy distraction to take all this, so many things and just get overwhelmed by them. You need to slim it down to one, concentrate on it, right? That's like the homeopathy of spirituality. To be able to take one little essence of a thing, concentrate on it, and you'll know the rest just for that essence, right? This breaks the knot of doubt. For the knower and the objective universe are seen as one and homogeneous, which is what I just chanted there. Recitation of the mantra gives you the special knowledge that the world is not different from Brahman, right? Isn't that how I started out today? So you can see how this is very apropos for that. The knower and the objective universe are seen as one and homogeneous. How can ignorance caused by seeing differences rise in the mind or remain in the heart of a man who reasons in this way? Coming to know the Adidaiva Vidya, that's the original divine knowledge, which includes these meanings of words, the eternal wisdom, ignorance becomes like darkness in the sky at the time of sunrise. Sri Krishna, Bhagavan, in the Uddhava Gita, talking to the disciple Uddhava. So he goes on in a different chapter of the Uddhava Gita to talk about this cosmic egg. You can see basically this outline here is a yellow dotted line is like a big cosmic egg. Here's a seed for you. So this is what I'm saying is you kind of follow it from the worksheet of the bijams to the they're in my mind level. Now you're going to see them as they come into nature. And nature is where? In your mind. All nature comes out of mind. I started out saying today that we do not believe in a God who creates. Brahman does not create, it's a create. So it all starts with a word. And it starts in the word planted in the Trinity, right? In the great deity. Brahma, Lord Brahma gets it first. Who does that? She's a secret. We'll save that for another time. So if he wants to talk about his outline of a cosmic egg or a great seed that holds everything within it, he puts it this way: whatever things come into being, minute or vast, all partake of the two principles of Purusha and Prakriti. That's all the way back to Lord Kapila's system. Purusha first, then Prakriti. And Father of Yoga, Patanjali, also took that in 140 BC, probably is about when he lived. Then he put together the eight-limb yoga system, and he told us the problem here is that the scene has become under the control, the seer has become under the control of the scene, right? So the seer now thinks that it's nature by looking out, sees nature, forgets that it was all inside of him as seeds, forgot that he's the author of it, got into it, and got lost in it. And the more lifetimes, Sri Ramakrishna said, he lived in that the loss of that wisdom, the more he began to think the world was real until Brahman just shoved out of the picture. There's no such thing as God, right? So this is how all of this can become a matter of Maya. How to get out of Maya? Start thinking about seeds again. It's all in you. It's all in your mind. Maya also in your mind, right? So get rid of it, as Vivekananda said. You're never in Maya. Maya is in you. So be done with it, Vivekananda said. So here's one way of how we do this, the Shabda Brahma way, the vibration way, the word, the way of the word, the Nada Brahma way, vibration with thought, Jnanam. This is how we do it quickly in this day and age when we need it quick. So think in terms of everything has come out of this combination of the sentient consciousness with insentient matter. I must have put that here somewhere. There it is, over here. Purusha, the thinking subject, Prakriti, the insentient object, is how he put it in the Uddhava Gita. And there you see homogeneous reality split itself into two. And that's a deaf sleight of hand. Basically, don't ask me how that happens. The seers say, it appeared to happen, and so now we're going with it. But now we're trying to assign to it the origin of it, which we know came out of a great word. But when that great word, when it began to hum, the first bifurcation happened, and out came Shiva and Shakti, right? Male and female. The Lord Shiva and the Divine Mother Shakti, and their love produced that Om. So Tantra has a very beautiful way of explaining that intuit sound, they call it, that vibrates deep in the hearts and minds of all beings. That is a deep-seated and rooted vibration of consciousness. Now you can see how, like the waterfall there in the back, Prakriti agitated by the three gunas, cosmic activity via the Mahat, the cosmic mind, and egotism are the first things that come out of this bifurcation. It has to be that way because beings have to penetrate, into these worlds as consciousness and develop body-mind mechanisms and start having their experiences in Prakriti. So that's what happened here in this world. It also happens in a gradated order in the inner worlds too. The Daharakasha, they're called. So we're just following this down like the stream. So if you're first out of a drop in the pool, right? That word, right? You see something just fell into a puddle there, and complete, there go the vibrations out. So the word starts to sound itself through the power of the deity, Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And the words were given to them by the Mahashakti, the goddess of the word, Saraswati. And then they thought them, and there it goes, off and running like a race around a track. Another cycle is in 4 laps is beginning. That's Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Out the gates they go, billions by the billions. So first thing that will come will be this Prakriti, and it has to come out of seeds. When it was in seeds, it's like your deep sleep state. Water, earth, trees, gardens, plants, flowers, everything you love here are in your deep sleep state too. We know they're in your dream state, but that's rather a matter of mirage, like a dream. But in deep sleep, you get closer to those seeds. They have words for them, and just like everything has a power word for them. So they all exist back in your mind. So when you think about them, it's like watering a garden, and plants will come. And all of a sudden, your dreaming state comes up again. You see all objects in it. Then your waking state, you see all the objects concretize themselves. Matter is there. And then you can just take it and evolve it back into the seed again. You do it every 24 hours. So somebody finally got a clue. What the hell is this that I'm doing all the time and not knowing about it? So I think I'll just concentrate in my meditation for a long time on it until I finally get Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti together, and as A, U, and M should be together. Those people who separate the mantras of Om into 3 letters and never connect them, one of the rishis said, people, they wander the 3 worlds lost all the time. So that's rebirth and ignorance. They never put together the 3 words, the 3 letters, 3 matras of Om, into one comprehensive view. So that's what the seers have done who are illumined. They have that comprehensive view. So the agitation of the 3 gunas is nicely represented by the waterfall. And there's the Mahat, the great mind, comes forth and says, come ye one and all, the worlds are now open for population. Let's see, start vibrating. To whatever capacity you have, start vibrating. Hope you, like Vivekananda said, you know, it's no doubt the world is a dream. My ambition is to become a conscious dreamer. So if he enters the worlds, he wants to know this is a dream world he's entering into, because then he can make the most of it and help others wake up, like he's awake. Yogic insomnia, right? He's got eternal awakeness, that man. Egotism is there in the shroud of fog and vapor that the waterfall hits the bottom. Then if you follow it further out, the next thing is the mind, the subtle senses, and the tanmatras. Sukshma indriyas are like your 5 senses in Dream Tonight. You see in a dream, you hear in a dream, speak in a dream, taste in a dream, touch in a dream, smell in a dream. You've got 5 senses in your dream state, in your subtle body. And so that's what's being said here. The next thing out the door is everything bifurcates and then trifurcates and then finally multiplies down. And these tattvas, which were seeds once, began to get their consciousness put to them. And then all of a sudden you see all these billions of minds, their subtle senses in dreaming, and the tanmatras are the subtle matter. Out of subtle matter will become the senses and the elements. Subtle senses will turn into the 5 gross senses, active senses, and knowledge senses, right? Tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, and smelling. Now they're in a physical body with 5 elements in it. And then further down, you see here the 3 spheres of Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. That's where transmigration is happening. Further down from that, on the stream, Patala worlds of the Asuras, so the hell realms, the sunken grounds are there, all the way up to the highest realms, all the way down to the lowest realms, inside of this great cosmic egg, everything miscible that is able to be mixed back into its source. Now all we have to do is do that mixing, right? We have to be like scientists in a laboratory and do this involution process in our meditation. So just take this and go back up with it. You're inside the cosmic egg. That's all of nature. Everything that can be seen from the great mind on down to the element earth is inside of your mind as seeds. That's how it all came into being and how you can bring it all back. And you do bring it all back every 24 hours. So now watch the process. Become the seer of that process of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And know that there's Turiya, a 4th state, that lies behind it all as Brahman, the backdrop to everything. So there we should probably end. We can go on with this next Sunday. Stay tuned to SRV to find out if we're going to continue on with this or if we just use it as a one-off class and start into April fresh. And hope to see you next Sunday for whatever happens at that time. But you can give some good meditation now to these seeds. Om Mantranam Jivabhuta Tuyashmita Shakti Rupaya Tatahina Vararohe Nishfalaha Sharda Vravat. Om. She who is known by the seers to be the imperishable Shakti. It's the inmost meaning of all the slokas and sutras of the revealed scriptures. Without her, O fair one, all the tattvas would be like clouds without rain. She is the perfect I consciousness, inherent in all the multitude of words, and the secret of all the mantras and bijams, whose very being is the essence of non-duality. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Hari Om.